I'd like to start this with kind of the same way I start each and every one of these. I would point your attention to the Facebook Evidence Management Community Forum. That's something that, again, we set up during the pandemic to give people a place to build community for evidence custodians, for evidence managers to find answers to questions that they might have, or just, bounce ideas off of one another. It's this type of community that we're trying to build in a lot of different places in the country. Just got back from PEEF in Florida. That association it was a great conference, and that's the kind of place that you just can't replace when it comes to the job that we do. There are very few opportunities for evidence custodians to get together, share ideas, to figure out who the person is next to you, and just appreciate y'all being here. So we'll keep moving. Uh, Hopefully you can see my screen. And I think if I've done this correctly, it's been a while. James did the last one. I see James is out there. Hello, James. You can come on if you want. But also want to shout out to Tracker Products. The reason that we're able to do training like this, not only online, but live and in person, because we've changed a little bit of our training model, is because of our partnership with Tracker Products. They keep the lights on here, and this training opportunity is brought to you by the folks at Tracker. If you if you're looking at software for your evidence operation, or if you're just curious about what software ought to look like for an evidence management unit or a property room, go to Tracker Products and find out some more. They would be happy to talk to you. So, oh, that's my website too, right there, evidencemanagement.com. If you're curious about what we do, if you've stumbled onto this from YouTube somewhere, and you're just trying to figure out why is that homeless looking guy talking to me about evidence, that website will give you more insight into what we do. And you can access all of our resources, past trainings, pretty much everything that we do from that website. And we would encourage you to show up and show up often. So today, this is episode number 24, give or take a few, but we're going to clear the air a little bit. And I wish that we had done a little more promotion ahead of time with this topic, because I am convinced that it is probably going to be one of the more impactful or educational shows that we've done. And the more I get out and the more I go to different evidence vaults and visit people and see more across the country, I am firmly convinced that we are in need of rarer air, cleaner air to breathe. And it is a problem throughout law enforcement. Most of us know just objectively, it stinks in here. That is the first indicator. Now, there are probably more technical ways to get to that as a problem, or to define that as a problem, but we're going to talk about air quality and air filtration today in evidence vaults, and specifically something cool that I think we found that would benefit you as an evidence custodian working in or near an evidence vault. So the little tag there below that is meaningless. Evidently, I forgot to change that when I swapped out my PowerPoint presentation for today. So we're not talking about creating evidence culture change at your agency. We talked about that a couple of times ago. We're talking about something new. So what are we talking about today? That is a good place to start, I would imagine. We'll do a couple of announcements. Want to tell you about more of our upcoming trainings. We'll be in California in July. We'll be all over California in July and August, and want to give you an opportunity to consider taking one of those classes. I'm also going to go over item number 8 on the list of things that I never dreamed would ever fascinate me when I was a child. You'll see why that's important. And not to bury the lead, but we will also be talking with our special guest, Gemma DeGasperis with SDAir. And I don't want to bury the lead, so we're just going to gloss right over that until we introduce her properly. And then we'll give you some ideas about what's happening next time on the evidence show. So I want to do a little quiz here. Oh, yeah, see Florida, Vegas. It's very cool. Training. we will be in Folsom, California at the beginning of July, the 6th and 7th. And the reason I'm excited about this particular season for training is we're trying to flip the model. We realize that it's difficult to get in a police department or a law enforcement agency, sheriff's office, or whoever to send their folks to training. And regardless of why, let's not even worry about the why. We thought that we could do it differently. And we thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if the evidence industry sponsored our 2-day training classes and certification, and we could offer it to evidence custodians at no cost to them? Now, no cost doesn't mean free. It costs somebody something. So we had to get somebody to sponsor it. And that's what we've done this year. And hopefully we can continue this pattern. We can do it again next year and just make that the model for the Evidence Management Institute. But we'll be in Folsom on July 6th and 7th. We'll be in Paso Robles, I'm probably saying that wrong, July 12th and 13th. I am told that is near Napa Valley. I'm hoping it is. I'm very bad with California geography. Then we'll be in Cincinnati in August and down near San Diego on Coronado Island for about a week in the month of August. And we've got 2 classes there. One that we're particularly excited about. We're going to do an advanced kind of workshop in Coronado, and we're also doing the full 2-day certification training. And then we'll round out the year in September near Atlanta, Georgia. So cool thing about that, doesn't cost you or your agency anything unless you have to travel, that's on you. But we provide the training and materials, the certification, and we do that because of vendor sponsorships of those training classes. Tracker is the sponsor right now for these classes. We're working on more, but come on down. We'll teach you what we know, and it'll be a good class. And I think we really feel like this is kind of the model for moving forward. If we really want to be successful, if we're really trying to change the culture, we got to find new ways to do it. And we think that this is one of them. So, question, if you will type the answer into the question window, what do these 8 things have in common? And if you don't know what those things are, I will explain them to you. And you can just type the answers in the little window where it says questions. The first little thing is a Norvise Legacy C fly tying vise. And if I better go counterclockwise, those are some pliers from Sims. There's a little CNC machine there, a Pro Angler, a Hobie Pro Angler 360. That's a fishing kayak, waders, a jointer, and an air filtration machine. If you know what those 8 things have in common, and you can type that into the window, I will give you a prize if you are correct. And if we have no answers, then I'm keeping the prize, and it's going to be awesome. No, Jake, they're not all made in China. They're not all tools. One is a shirt, and I guess that's a tool for your body, but they can all be found in evidence room, possibly, but hopefully not, because that would make me very sad. Well, those are good guesses. Things you don't want in storage. Absolutely. That might be in common, but these are all 8 things. What I was looking for, the correct answer was things I've wanted really bad in the last month. They're not all recycled. They're not all stolen. They're not all moldy. So these are great answers. These are great answers. So, but they're all wrong. I'm sorry. This was a trick question. It was a setup. There are 8 things that I've really wanted this month. I'm an impulsive person, and I've seen at least all 8 of these and thought, man, I got to have that. And one of those we're going to talk about today. And apparently the little forward button, there we go. So when we look at the list of things I never thought I would be obsessed over, right down at number 8 is air filtration and air quality and evidence falls. When I was a small child, I never dreamed that I would be obsessive over that was something that would keep me up at night, that would be something that I'm passionate about. But there you find it right there, number 8. That's on our list. And that's one of the reasons why we're talking about the subject we're talking about today. And just to give you a little background, and I realize it's a very long introduction, we're now 10 minutes into our discussion. But I was at the PEEF conference, and I was walking around in the little vendor area. And I always do that because that's kind of where I am. And sometimes I'll see something that looks cool. Sometimes I'll see something shiny that catches my attention. Sometimes it's a new evidence box, and there were some there. Uh, but sometimes I'll see something that makes me think, dang, why doesn't everybody have one of these? And that's what we're going to talk about today. The thing that made me say, dang, why doesn't everybody have one of these? Um, and it also gives us an opportunity to replace some ignorance with information. And I will tell you that me personally, from my perspective, I was a little ignorant on some of the issues related to air quality. Not because I hadn't looked, but because I hadn't found the right answers yet. And I'm always interested in actual solutions, true solutions to old problems. And the air quality and evidence vaults is an old problem that exists in virtually every evidence vault that I've ever been in. There are a couple of exceptions, and I'll tell you why there are exceptions here in a little bit. So, all that to say, this is Gemma. Say hello, Gemma.
Hi, how are you all?
And, sh- and
No.
she's with, I think they're all fine. They can't respond. But but she's with SDAir in Florida. She is a public safety air quality specialist, and her company represents or distributes something really cool from a company called Healthway. So why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself, what it means to be a public safety air quality specialist, PSHQS. That's a very difficult acronym. Go.
Well, basically, I'm certified in public safety air quality. And how this all started with me in this industry is I started 20 years ago building negative pressure systems in jails. And at the time, the company Healthway that I rep, we really saw a need in evidence rooms and property rooms, but there really wasn't a great solution. You know, typically you need a smaller unit. What we were doing for negative pressure were units that were definitely too large for an evidence room. So we developed, Healthway specifically developed these products for public safety and large, medium size, and small evidence rooms. They they really focus on not only containing the odor, but eliminating it. And they do this through digital filtration. It is a patent thing that Healthway has in their products, and it was actually developed by a US grant for germ warfare. So what these units can do that there is nothing else on the market that can do it, they will contain and then eliminate down to 0.007. So to put that in perspective, a red blood cell is at 7. A
Those are
HEPA,
microns, right?
those are microns, I'm sorry, they are microns. Bacteria is at 0.5 microns. HEPA will eliminate up to 0.3 microns. Coronavirus is at 0.1 microns, and our units will capture down to 0.007 microns. So they have been tested against coronavirus as well as some other viruses, and they will eliminate. The units that we're going to talk about today are portable and basically a medium size unit and a larger unit. So the difference between them is one will eliminate up to 1,400 square feet and another will eliminate up to 3,500 square feet.
All right.
Um,
Well,
so
let's.
to
Oh, sorry. Let me
Go
let
ahead.
me let me stop you. And I want to, because you know a lot about things, and I don't. I want to take a moment and educate folks on things.
Okay.
And as an evidence custodian, as a guy that worked in a vault and communicating to an audience of people that work in evidence vaults, we know anecdotally, intuitively, hey, it smells bad in here. We've all been to training and we've all heard of aspergillus. And we've all heard of the different types of yuck, and we all have noses that work at least somewhat well sometimes. We know when it stinks. But I'd like you to teach us a little bit about kind of the air that we breathe. I mean, I know it stinks in here, but there are really three things that get in the air that make the air bad and unhealthy for us. So tell us about those, and I can shift the slides. The next couple are yours.
Okay, so I've I I did this thing a few years ago as a CDC report on evidence rooms, and one of the things that all evidence rooms that they're basically storing private property, they're storing blood evidence, they're storing drugs, and they're storing, especially in Florida, a lot of marijuana. So the one thing that you're going to first find is particles, and your particles are going to be your aspergillus, acrimonious drug particulates, mold, and dust. There's always a lot of dust, and and some of us just can't process a lot of different particulates, and that we find that they're harmful. So we've got particles, and now our next slide.
Now, are any of those good for us? Like, do I
Oh,
want some catonium?
no, no,
Okay,
none
so
of
those are all
none of
bad.
them are good. But see, they're all, what it really you need to look at is that you'll find that, and these are the people that I really want to try to help, that some people can process these particulates and not have adverse health effects. Then there'll be other people who can process them and they are detrimental to their health.
All right, that makes sense.
So VOCs, gotta love them. So those are your stinkies. Those are the things you're gonna smell. Now, probably the worst thing on this list is marijuana VOCs. And a lot of time too, that marijuana, especially if it's the full plant and roots and dirt, you're going to be smelling the mold, and that's what's going to give you all those wonderful molds like aspergillus, and that's what they're going to create. So part of it is that, yes, you have the particles, and then you have the VOCs, and none of, they're just, these are things that as humans, that we should not be in small contained areas constantly smelling these VOCs, because once again, that they can be, hard on your respiratory system and create issues. I run into so many people in property and evidence that don't understand why they're having upper respiratory, or why they're having these sinus issues, constant sinus issues. So, there are things that we haven't considered, and we don't consider, how this is all affecting your health.
Yeah, and a couple things I want to point out, just and correct me if I'm wrong, but
Mhm.
formaldehyde, I mean that's naturally occurring in a lot of building materials. Like
It is.
if you use PDF, or not PDF, MDF,
And yeah,
sometimes the construction components that we use to build with have formaldehyde in them, and they leach out and outgas over time. Same thing with like
yeah.
bricks of cocaine, or
And
or
yeah,
large.
exactly. And here's the thing: the formaldehyde, believe it or not, if you've purchased anything, from Amazon furniture wise, one of the things is they don't allow it in California because for the amount of formaldehyde that it has on it. So, and then it also depends on the ventilation. So these things might not be harmful in a large vented room, but then become more difficult if you're going to follow what the CDC says what an evidence room is supposed to be. An evidence room should have a supply, should not have a return, and should be vented out. Well, that might not be enough air changes to remove all of your particulates and all of your VOCs. And that's where we run into the problems.
Yeah, and a lot of these buildings, a lot of these facilities, I mean, they can't necessarily be retrofitted easily with like an inline something, or a filtration system that's inline, uh, because they're old and they're located in bad places. So let's talk last about microorganisms.
Yeah, well, this class is basically going to be your viruses, your bacteria, and your fungi. So if you kind of look at viruses down to 0.02 to 0.1 micron. So remember, we can still eliminate. Bacteria we can eliminate, and fungi we can eliminate. HEPA is like one of the filters that will not be able to eliminate your viruses and most of your bacterias. Also will not be able to eliminate your VOCs. Oh,
All right. Now I've got a side question. This has nothing to do with an N95 mask. What level of micron do you know offhand what that screens against?
that's supposed to be 0.3.
0.3? Okay. I didn't
Yeah.
know. I figured I'd ask you.
And then yeah.
So we know that there's bad stuff in the air. And historically in evidence rooms, we've used some fairly bad solutions to the ways to combat or counteract the effects or impacts of bad air quality. I've seen places where they use the old crime scene, I smell dead people trick, and they gear up with a little bit of PPG, put a little Vicks vapor rub on their lip, and that's how they're able to work for sustained periods inside their vault, which is tragic. Clothespins, I've never seen anyone actually use that, but just holding your nose closed, or or being given the advice, well, just keep the door open. I mean, that's so wrong on so many different levels, but these are really legit, actual bad solutions to bad air quality problems that I've seen. Or just telling people, it'll stop stinking in a few months. That's probably the worst. But one of the things that I see over and over and over again is, this kind of workaround. We're just going to cover the old stink that we fear with a nicer stink. So we go through quarts of Febreze and candle after candle after candle. I would encourage you to examine not just holding your breath or not doing things to cover it up, because these things have legitimate health risks and consequences beyond just smelling bad. So when we go through the list of better options, obviously one of the things that we teach in class is adequate ventilation. Now, ventilation is great, but when you think about it, it's better than nothing. It's better than having a closed room with no ventilation, but all that bad air has to go somewhere. So if we're venting this air out somewhere, it's got to go somewhere. So just adequate ventilation, better than nothing, but there's probably something better. And the thing that kind of surprised me when I was kind of learning about this at the PEEF conference, and why I said to myself, hey, dang, everybody needs something like this, is I put a lot of faith in advertising. I am very gullible. I'll watch something on TV and then I just assume that it's the gospel truth. But I've always assumed that having a HEPA filter was an appropriate safeguard against pretty much most contaminants in the air. But as it turns out, it's pretty good at stopping a lot of the stinky chunks in the air, but it's going to leave a lot of things and pass a lot of things on through to us. So the best option is scrubbing that air, using a disinfecting filtration system to actually clean the air around you. And the cool thing is, it doesn't have to be something that is inaccessible for every single evidence room in the country. And that's why I wanted to have Gemma on and talk about SDAir and their product that they sell for Healthway. And I'll have her explain all that to me. And I got some more slides here. Can you read that one or see that one?
I do. Oh, no, I don't.
Let's see. Oh, whoops. Oh, darn it. All right, I'm very proud of myself. I didn't use any profanity there, but okay, there we go. So you can't see my screen. There's a little where it says sharing. If you drop that little caret down, you should be able to see the slide that we're on. I forgot to tell you about that. That would have made things much smoother. Nope.
No.
All right. Well, I'm going to describe the screen to you, and I'll just ask you a bunch of questions. You pretend that this never happened. If you're in the listening audience there, just pretend that this was smooth and this went exactly the way it was supposed to go, and that I didn't mess this up. So tell us about DFS technology. What is DFS technology?
Well, DFS, as you said, is disinfecting filtration system. And so what it will do better than anything else out there, it will have a what we call a V-bank filter, which is just basically a grid, if you can imagine, just a metal grid with tiny little squares in it. And I'm not giving you a good visual, I don't think so, but what
I
it
got
does,
slides. Yeah. Yeah.
any particulate that is basically going to go into this field is captured, and then how it's eliminated is that grid has 17,000 volts going through it. And then so now it's basically going to take it and eliminate it and make it like, if you can imagine a grain of sand, it's going to make it 1/1,000,000th of that. And that's what's going to land in the filter. But it's also deactivating anything that would be harmful.
Okay. So tell us about the products that do that. I've got the slide up that shows the different particle sizes
Yeah.
of things that will get trapped.
Yeah, and let's talk about HEPA a little bit. And I don't really want to give it a bad press, and it might work in a residential area. The reason why it's not working in evidence is you have two issues. You have your harmful particulates and you have your VOCs. Well, HEPA will do nothing for VOCs. So it'll eliminate particulates to, like we were saying, to 0.3 microns. Which again, in your home, I would say, if you want to use that type of filter, why not? But the VOCs that you need to eliminate the VOCs, because that is part of what is harmful in your breathing air. And HEPA won't do that. So HEPA will basically imagine just your general filter, like the one you put into your HVAC system at home, and it is a filter. It'll basically take things in, and the filter will capture. What'll happen is, imagine now that filter's a petri dish. So within 30 days, if it basically gets moisture and it gets dust and it gets a mold particulate, it'll start growing mold, because it hasn't eliminated what it took in.
Yeah. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Oh, good.
So tell us about some of the different products you got. I got a picture up. I know you can't see it, but the
You
Healthway
do. This is
9.
the 950. This is a powerhouse, but it is also a larger machine. And as you know, most of the evidence rooms that we go into sometimes don't have the space for something this size. But this will eliminate VOCs, as it has a dedicated VOC filter, as well as a V-bank disinfecting filtration filter. It will do, in a 3,000 square foot room, it will do 5 air changes per hour.
Cool. And
Yep.
the 2000 is the inline unit. Is that
This is
right?
inline, and this is a really interesting unit. This is actually in Orange County. This picture that you're seeing is Orange County Sheriff's Office, and in their evidence. So there was the opportunity here to take up a lot of room, and this, to give you the idea, was a room in between 3 evidence rooms. So this particular unit was now able to filter the air in these 3 rooms. And this is also a unit that, if ever you want to make an evidence room negative pressure, this is a unit that'll do that too.
Very cool. Now those are big. What about
Huge.
the Healthway Deluxe?
The deluxe. This machine fits everywhere. It's great for intake. It's great for dispatch. It's great for offices. It's great for evidence rooms. It'll move about 1,300. It works for. I'm sorry. It'll move about 1,300 CFM of air. Great for a room that's 1,000 square feet or a little bit more. Again, very much like the Powerhouse 950, just shrunk down. It has two filters in it. One is a dedicated VOC filter. The other is the disinfecting filtration system that basically sits on the top. So, and incredibly economical to run. Also, the filters are good for 1 year.
Very cool. Let me see if I got more slides. What about the Super V?
This
I just
is
I
a
just pulled
great,
a bunch of slides off your
I know,
stuff.
the Super V is a great opportunity if you have an evidence room or an evidence warehouse that has its own HVAC system. This is an inline system that will work with the existing blower of your HVAC system. It doesn't have a blower in it. That's why it needs, but it's minimal in cost to install. And again, it has a dedicated disinfecting filtration system. And then what we can add to this, if we're dealing with VOCs, is we add a VOC filter to it. It's a unit that was actually designed for residential. But then we came out a unit that would work as a commercial application for evidence rooms. But like I said, it needs to be an area that is basically having its own HVAC system. So it could be maybe 3 or 4 rooms that have it, and you can do it that way. It can be an independent warehouse that has its own HVAC. So limited applications, unfortunately, but they are out there. That someone who basically wants to clean the air in the whole facility, and this can go on its main line.
Okay, cool. Well, those are and I'll tell you a couple of cool things about these, and you know, the reason that what they excited me is because they have these tiny units that are about the size, literally about the size of a shredder. I mean, they're not large, they're not loud. I was pretty much next to one while we were having a conversation. They're not prohibitively loud. They're also not prohibitively expensive. They're affordable, especially given the cost of inaction or the cost of not doing anything. Uh, so thank you, Gemma. And we'll have some questions at the end. But one of the things that I wanted to go through just real quick um, is kind of how do you, as an evidence custodian, let's say you might need something like this in your evidence room. If you don't, if this is a product that just makes no sense for you, then don't listen. Just pretend I'm not talking. But I think that these types of products are essential, at least to tell people about, so that when they are in need of a solution, or when they have a friend at a next agency that is in need of a solution, that we know that solutions exist. But more important than knowing that there is a helpful tool out there is creating a path for obtaining that particular helpful tool at your particular agency. And I am convinced that the technology is superior to the other methods of air scrubbing or air filtration that I see most commonly in evidence vaults. But there's quite another thing to get these things to the end users. I was delighted. I have a friend of mine that works, she's the evidence custodian for a little county in East Texas. And they are very murdery in that part of the world. And there are a lot of, I mean, she takes in a large volume of evidence for a very small agency. And I went back to visit her a couple of weeks ago, and I saw one of the Healthway little devices in there, and I was like, that's what I'm talking about. And I asked her about it, and I think she probably met Gemma or someone from SDAir at the Tape It conference, and thought, man, I
I'll
need to get
tape
one of
it.
these. And
We're going to be
one,
there. We're going to be there in October. Can't wait
all
to see
right. Well,
everyone.
there are about 13 other associations you need to get to, because they're not all of them have conferences, and I just didn't advance the slide. But let's say you want to try to obtain something like this, and you can use this process for other things that you need to obtain. It's not just an air filtration system, but really, if you're trying to obtain something like this for your agency, and the main thing that you have to do is get to the yes, get somebody that controls the purse strings to say yes. And I would recommend the following 4 steps to fresher breath. One, just start breathing in, document. I mean, most of the problems that exist with related to air quality within an evidence vault are tangible. They're observable problems. So take photos. If you've got mold in your operation, take photos. If you've got um, other issues that are indicative of air quality issues, then take the photos. If you got dust just laying around everywhere or gathering on shelves, those are other indicators of air quality issues. There are little home test kits that you can use to test specifically for mold that will give you back a report on the absolute type of mold strain that you're seeing when you swab it. But anecdotally, if you have employees experiencing health issues related to evidence rooms, and this happens more often than I'd like to think, but the vaults themselves are health hazards sometimes. And people that work in those for extended periods of time, it's no coincidence that they experience health issues, that they experience the same type of respiratory systems or symptoms that you would if you worked in another contaminant area or zone. So those things, start to document all the little issues that make you or that give you the information or build the case for, hey, we've got an air quality issue here. Just telling somebody that the room stinks, not going to do it. The stink is indicative of a problem. If it stinks because of the biological evidence in there, I'm not going to go over this because this is a family show. But if it smells like dope, it's because you got little dopicles, little dope particles floating through the air. I mean, that's just the physics of smelling things. And I'm not a scientist, but if you can smell it, it's in the air. It's in your nose now, and your nose has decoded it, sent it to your brain, and the harmful effects happen afterwards. So we want to document these things. We want to create a justification. Number two, breathe out, start justifying it. There are a couple of ways that you can justify air quality in your evidence vault. One, you want to create an appropriate storage environment for your evidence. Obviously, that means it's relatively free of mold and other airborne contaminants. Those airborne contaminants like mold can destroy evidence if the moisture levels rise and the conditions develop for mold growth. Doesn't take too many spores to have a spore party and grow and contaminate the whole vault. The other would be go to standards and best practices. Whether it's ours or another organization's, go to best practices and standards and look at the recommendations that they make for air quality. I believe we have a little bit. I'm not sure if the NIST Biological Evidence Handbook has anything to say about air quality or not. I should, but I don't. But those types of documents can build that case, the justification for getting these tools into evidence vaults. But again, I think one of the best ways to communicate the need for technology like this is to let your chain of command understand their liability exposures. And in an evidence vault, there are two true liabilities associated with air quality. One is employee health and safety. That's to me the most important. But number two would be evidence contamination and cross contamination. If we don't have clean air and filtered air going in and out of these vaults, if we're not storing evidence inside of clean conditions or clean air conditions, then we can pretty much guarantee that we're creating conditions that could likely result in the contamination of evidence. That's justification, but you have to document these things. It's not just it stinks, it's a process. More fun, and I won't actually go over this. This was fun for me because I love to go into evidence vaults, and I like to calculate the volume of the room, length times width times height. I like to calculate the flow. You measure the length and the width of a register, and then the airflow coming out of the register. That's how you start to you take those two measurements, and you can actually measure the changes per hour in the air. Uh, but you don't have to do that, so just skip all that. But know that the goal is 12 to 14 changes per minute. I mean, that's the standard, and you can achieve that in a couple different ways. It doesn't all have to come from the filtration system. Some of it's going to come from the air itself, but know how many changes per minute you're getting or changes per hour you're getting in your vault, and then know the solution. I've added a couple little you can't see where I'm pointing, but I've added a couple little documents here, just two of the products that Gemma was talking about, those Healthway, I think the 950 and the Deluxe, the little one and the bigger one. If you're curious and you want to download those, I've put those in the handout window. And again, I'm pointing again, but you can't see where I'm pointing, it's a little handout window. And you can download some specs and information about both of those products. Um, I really think that that's the solution for most of us. It would benefit a lot of us to have this type of technology. It's going to make our environment safer for working. Um, it's going to make our evidence less prone and less likely to be contaminated. I just think it's a good product. I wouldn't talk about it if I didn't think it was cool. And I got really excited at the PEEF conference, one, because I was at the beach, but two, because there was something cool to tell y'all about, even if y'all didn't get to go. If you don't live in Florida, that probably wouldn't have made much sense. But I'm going to try to go back uh, next year just because it was good experience. So uh, the last step is requestification. So there is, let's see, documentation, justification, preparation, and requestification. Make a request. Make a formal business request based on objective facts up through your chain of command. You've documented the problem. You've defined the appropriate solution. You provided justification that would substantiate an expenditure for something like this. If you can do that much, more than likely, it's going to make it very easy, or it's going to make it much easier for a chief executive or whoever's controlling the fiscal purse strings at your agency to say yes to a legitimate business decision. So, got a couple of questions, Gemma. One, I'm going to let you answer this. Well, I'm going to let you answer all of the ones related to air quality because I don't know the answers. But we have a new facility open in 2016 with a built-in air purification system. But we have a small drug room where the filtration system resides, and we still smell marijuana. It's not as strong as it was in an old facility, but it's still detectable.
Okay.
What might be some causes or some why might that be? Why might that set of conditions still exist?
Well, you might have an air purification system. I'm assuming that this is something not a portable, something that is built in, correct?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
built in.
Well, it might not be, it might not be processing VOCs, and that's why you're smelling it. So really an air filtration system, the only way it can process VOCs is to have some type of carbon. You have to have a carbon filter in there. So if it might be possible to inline put a carbon filter to capture your VOCs, I'm kind of blind because I don't know what system this is. But if I had to guess, it's probably doing a great job eliminating, but just enough not to eliminate VOCs.
That makes sense. And that was the same answer I would have given you, Rosa, because now I'm going to pretend like I know a lot of stuff. Same thing. I'm going to assume the answer to this question is no, it wouldn't help. So I'm going to just give you what I think the answer is. But same issue or same place. They got mold in their refrigerators, like in where they store blood.
Yeah.
Would air filtration outside of the refrigeration system, cold storage, would that have any impact or reduce the possibility for mold growth inside a closed cold storage refrigeration system?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, the reason that you're getting the mold in the refrigeration system, I think, you're probably having an excessive amount of humidity, which is going to happen in refrigeration, and you're having mold get in there. So let's look at it this way, that let's say it's in an evidence room where marijuana is being stored and other things are getting stored and those spores are getting in. Again, maybe, but I would go with a no.
Yeah. Could you put one of these devices, would it be effective inside like a walk-in fridge?
Oh yeah, you can.
Okay.
And I've actually done that application where even though it was, let's call it cold storage, it still had really bad VOCs. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why we put it in there.
Well, cool, because I've got a patent on a new product for air filtration for refrigerator systems. So y'all can
That's
just
great.
I can just send me a little stipend when y'all build it the way I've imagined it. So anybody have any questions about let's go through the rest of the There, we're officially at the question stage. If there are any more questions related to air filtration or to air quality, um, Gemma would be a great resource to address the air quality issue and the air filtration issue. So if you have any, I'll give you a couple of minutes while we go through kind of the tail end here. And if you don't, feel free to email me. And I did not put your contact information on here, Gemma, but I think it's
Shawn, would you like my number?
yes, yes.
561-339-5505. If I can help in offering a solution, please give me a call.
Cool. And your website is SDA.
Healthway, no,
Oh, health.
yeah, for our basically our commercial, it's healthway.com.
Okay, very cool. Uh, Here's a couple of questions.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this is probably a good one. Cost and pricing.
Well, I think to focus on the two handouts, let's start there. That's
Okay.
easier. The 950 with a VOC filter is an MSRP of $49.95. The
$4,995.
$900, yeah. And that unit basically will then have the 7-stage filtration system. The Healthway Deluxe is $10.95. And as I mentioned, the filter is typically a 12-month thing, and the filter replacement, both of them, is $280. So I love that unit because it's manageable, right? It probably can do 75% of the evidence rooms nationwide as far as size, and it's not an expensive solution.
Yep. No, I couldn't. Yeah, and that's the one that I saw at Van Zandt County. It's a very small evidence vault. I mean, we're
Yes,
talking very small. They were using the deluxe, and at that price point, I think that's one of the things that kind of took me back, and why I wanted to have you on is because $1,000 is not cheap, but it is not expensive for the type of filtration and the type of air movement that the unit provides. And the $280 every year for filters, I mean, that's a nominal investment in employee health and in evidence the quality of forensic evidence as far as
exactly.
I'm
It's it
concerned.
it it for what this unit can do and what it can eliminate from your breathing air. I just don't think you can put a price on it. Like, to keep you healthy, and I think this is what your chain of command needs to understand, that this is not it's not an expensive solution to keep you healthy.
All right, I got one more. I got another question here before we kind of wrap up, and I'm going to answer this one because I want to pretend that I have knowledge that I don't have. But now I feel so knowledgeable, I feel like I can answer it. And Gemma will be here to correct me if I'm wrong, but I hope I'm not because I'm really feeling it. So I'm even adjusting my position in the chair. We have an air scrubber in our vault. It does well, but there's still a smell of marijuana. So very similar to the last question. Is this an indication that the unit is the wrong size or has the wrong air filter? I would say, well, I'm probably just going to give this back to Gemma, but both of those are possibilities. If you've got too small of a unit that doesn't filter the right amount of air through, then yeah, the unit itself could be too small. I would hope
Exactly.
that the filter size would be kind of a stock thing, and you'd be able to see, oh, this doesn't fit. I think there might be another issue here, and that's the VOCs again.
Again,
If your air scrubber is not designed or intended to fix or to affix and to eliminate VOCs or to fry the little particles like magic,
yeah.
then that might be the problem. It might be the type of unit that you're using.
Well, Shawn, there's one way that I'm sure that they can figure this out pretty easily. Get the specs on the current unit that they have. Figure out what your what space, as far as qualify what square footage you have, And, and from there you'll be able to tell. And then the specs on the unit will tell you if there's any VOC component to it, if there's any carbon in the unit.
All right, last three questions and we'll wrap up here for today. One, what type of warranty do these units have?
All of our units are a 2-year parts and labor warranty. These are all US made products, all made in Pulaski, New York. If no one knows where that is, it's near Syracuse. That's where our manufacturing plant is.
And is there, other than the purchase and the cost of filters, this is another question, I'm translating it roughly, which would be $280 for the small unit. Is there any other yearly maintenance or any service requirement associated with the machine?
No,
Okay.
no, none.
And last question is from James, my partner. Oh, there's more. Oh, this is good. I love questions. And I'm going to answer a couple of them, and we'll probably go offline here and we'll answer. What's the difference between an ozone generator and an air scrubber?
Okay. Ozone, basically what it does, it takes in air and uses ozone to mask the VOC, the smell in the air. The issue with ozone is too much ozone is harmful to us as Homo sapiens. We can't be, our chemical makeup is not wanting high levels of ozone.
Okay. I'm also going to answer this last question for you just to prove that I became so smart this hour that now I possess real knowledge. I feel good about me. But if an agency has 4 small evidence rooms, what do you recommend? And I'm going to assume that the answer is depends on the size of those evidence rooms and the capacity of the unit. So
exactly. I kind of would need just a little bit more information of the size. Do they share a common venting system? So there are a couple of different things to look at before you could figure out an application.
But I do know someone that can answer those questions, and it's not me. So if you have questions about air filtration and air quality that you want addressed by someone that knows something about it, that is not me, reach out, contact Gemma. She's a great resource. I mean, I like I say, met her at the PEEF conference, and that's one of the reasons I love going to conferences, because I learned something new and I saw something new. And even though it had nothing to do with fly fishing or woodworking, I really wanted one of those products, and I wanted you guys to have one of those products too, because I think it'll make us all better. But I'm going to close down the shop here. Thank y'all for being here. I'm going to go over the last couple little screens, let you know our next few shows. We've already gone over the questions. Next time on the Evidence Show, July 21st, 2022 at 2 p.m. Central, the one ring to rule them all. We're going to discuss the one-stop solution for every problem that you've ever had as an evidence custodian. And I will tell you now, I didn't have a topic for next month, so I just made that up. But our next shows will be on the 21st, the 11th of August, September 29th, October 13th, November 17th. If you're in California, please sign up for a training class and come see James and I live and in person. We'll have trinkets and we'll have information for you. So thanks for being here. And how can I get my coworkers on the list to get the links to these shows? Just point them to our website. They can sign up anytime. So thank you. Y'all have a great week. Thank you, Gemma. I appreciate you being here.
Shawn,
Like I
thank
said,
you so much. Have a great week. Thank you for the opportunity. This was a lot of fun, and please have me back.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Well, y'all have a good week. I'll see you July 21st. I'm going to hit this little button here.